Good evening, everybody. How are we doing for this YouTube exclusive for the Arm Nerds podcast? Now, guys, if you've been a fan of the show since day one, first of all, I appreciate the support. But we've had this fascination with ring announcers, going from Ryan Peterson to David Adams, our aforementioned guest Rich Reed, Shane Fair, Mike Falvo, you name it, they've been on the show. And making his return, not only is he the lead senior ring announcer for SWF, he's also a Hall of Famer now as well. He also does celebrity boxing. He does LTW. You name it, he's there. The one yelling, Mr. Rich Reed. Rich, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. It's great to be back. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. And unfortunately, I'm stumped on questions.
Okay. Hey, do your best.
It was, Rich, it was supposed to be a joke for the Stump from SWF.
Oh.
That was a bad joke, I know.
No, it was it was decent. I just didn't. It went over my head. What can I say? It's late.
It's fine. But let's get into the picture heard around the world. The Stump. Now, what are your thoughts on the whole thing about people making it such a big deal about it?
Well, a lot of thought was put into it. The Stump obviously did its job. No one died. No one got hurt. It held the ring up. So there you have it. And by the way, when Tommy Dreamer spoke in the ring during the Hall of Fame ceremony, he brought light to it, and he actually, viewed it as a positive in the sense that it showed the resourcefulness of the wrestlers to make the show continue. I mean, Tommy Dreamer himself said it. So, people are going to have their opinions, but if it's good enough for someone like him, it's good enough for me.
And I agree with you. And it's actually the first time I'm making any sort of comments on it. To me, I don't understand the people complaining about it. To me, nobody got hurt. The show went on. I think the fact that people are complaining, I think they just need something to complain about, to be honest.
Yeah, and and it involves Rob Fury, who's no stranger to my good friend. And what I love about him is he fights through it all. He's been doing it his entire career as a promoter. He's not going to stop fighting through it now.
No, but to me, like I said, nobody got hurt. The show went on. From what I heard, it was a fantastic 2 nights. All ahead of Mega Stuff happened in the end of April. But honestly, like I said, I'll say it again, the fact that people are complaining about it, or like I said, complaining about it, it just shows that they want to complain about everything.
Yeah.
But, no, go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I was just agreeing with you. It's the free country. It's their right to complain, but I think there are other things, more important things to complain about. But that's just my opinion, and apparently yours too. So
exactly, but that's the way I look at it. Is people just believe me? I learned one thing being in this wrestling industry, obviously for the last couple of years, but a lot now with the show, is people love to complain about everything. You're never going to appease everybody.
Yeah. They say the wrestling industry is a man's soap opera, in front of the curtain and behind the curtain.
Oh yeah.
To me, this is the prime example of that.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say the comment I've always heard is women have General Hospital, men have wrestling.
Yeah, and it's just like a soap opera, wrestling. The continuity of the story has been going on since the beginning of the time. All these stories have this long link over decades and decades, just like, I don't know, As the World Turns or General Hospital. I don't know.
Yeah, and folks, that's one of the only times we're ever going to mention the word General Hospital on a wrestling podcast. I'm just saying. But I want to get into another big thing, because you actually had quite a big accomplishment at the show. You were part of the inaugural class into the SWF Hall of Fame. How did that come to fruition? How did that feel, being part of that inaugural class?
It's actually something that Rob Fury has thrown at me. He was, a couple previous shows he pitched the idea, but I guess he wanted to get his ducks in a row and get all the people deserving of it to get inducted. And this was just the show to do it. This is where the stars were aligned, and it was a long time in the making. And what an amazing moment it was.
Was that? But then, I mean, looking back on it now, obviously it's been a couple of days. Has it hit you yet that instead of calling yourself just a ring announcer for wrestling and boxing, you're also a Hall of Famer?
I don't know if it has like hit me in that way. But if I sit back and think about it, it's absolutely incredible to have something to show for it. Because I've been doing this, I've been at it for a while, and it's something on my resume that can't be taken away.
And I look at it this way: it's obviously it's one thing that you can actually also turn around to people and say you share the same thing with Tommy Dreamer.
I was going to touch on that.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I was inducted alongside a lot of great people,
Yeah.
but Tommy Dreamer, the hardcore legend. I can always say that I was inducted into the same Hall of Fame ceremony on the same night as the hardcore legend, the Heart of You, Tommy Dreamer. And then I got to ring announce his match immediately after the ceremony, and it was just amazing, an amazing combination of events in the same show.
Again, I applaud you for that, because to sit there and say that you're a Hall of Famer now is no small task, is the word I want to use. And it's something that it's based off of your years of doing it. And to be honest, and I said this before, and I said this to you, I still think you're one of the better ring announcers that the independent scene, especially up in the Northeast, has to offer.
Thank you. And it may sound crazy, but I've worked so hard and put in all my hard work. Hall of Fames are great, awards are great, trophies are great, but just to hear that, from someone like yourself and people telling you that you're a good job, and to hear it from multiple people, that's like an award in and of itself.
Well, I mean, I'll go back to Contest of Champions, which was a couple months ago, I remember. And I remember you got called into that. I think I remember correctly. I think you got called into that like last minute.
2 or 3 days, yeah.
And I said it then because I was lucky enough to be there. I wasn't there the entire day like some other people, but I was there for most of it. And I said it then. I'll say it again. The fact that you were able to pull what you did that night, being that you only found out about it 2 days beforehand, to me just speaks character to who Rich Reed is.
Yeah. And I was excited about that show even when I didn't think it was part of it. And so imagine how it hit me like a couple days in advance. But I think the reason I was able to pull together, I think it chalks up to experience.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked some pretty big crowds. Well, that was one of the biggest crowds I've ever worked. But the experience and just having done it, it's kind of just in my blood.
Now, obviously, being that you've been a ring announcer for some time now, you got to ring announce for a lot of people who are former superstars, current independent people. Is there one person? I might have asked you this question before, but is there one person that you've ring announced for that you sit there and you're like, I can't believe I was the one who ring announced for this person?
Yeah. And even though I didn't like ring announce a match of his, since you mentioned Contest of Champions, Sting, that was that was a moment. That was a moment. And like the fact that I was the only like worker that a lot of people got to meet him, shake his hand, take pictures with him in the back, but I was the only worker who actually shared the ring with him, during his moment under the lights. It's it may not be the biggest deal in the world, but it kind of hit me. And it's something that didn't hit me until like a couple days later. But that was, what a moment that was.
Oh, hey, That Sting to me is somebody where it's like you talk about legends in this industry, and you talk about guys who have paved the way over the last 40 years. To me, Sting's one of the names you have to throw in there. His time in WCW, obviously his short stint in WWE, TNA, now with what he's doing over in AEW. And the fact that was also, if I remember correctly, because we actually had what's his face, Donald Bucci on our show right beforehand. And he had said that was actually, I think, Sting's first independent show that he had ever done.
Really?
I think so.
So I might have shared the ring with Sting for his first ever independent show. That's
because you also have to realize when Sting was coming up. Now I'm talking mid '80s. Yeah, I mean you had independent companies, but it's not like the independent scene now.
Yeah, right. Well, now the independent scene, from what I understand, is it's a different animal. It's very saturated. And Sting is, like you said, he's not a guy. Maybe this was his first, because he's definitely not a wrestler that's made rounds in the independent circuit. That's the first time I've ever heard of him doing an indie show.
Now, you basically went to Memphis or you went to Louisville, and then you got the call up to whatever company you were with. It wasn't like now where it's like, okay, well, you did a stint with LTW, you did a stint with SWF, you did a stint here. Okay, well, you're going to get a tryout for NXT. It's much different.
Right.
So the fact that that was his first, I mean, even saying that to me is like just a thing that I'm like, this is obviously that point was 2022, but it's the 21st century, and we're still talking about Sting being an active wrestler. And again,
yeah, wow,
yeah. But I remember that night, and I remember the emotion after they did the last match, the 6-man tag match. And all I remember with that was leaving Tom's River at midnight, because we had stayed till the end because I wanted to try to talk to some of the guys. Obviously, our very own Ryan Peterson was there as well, helping out. What I will never forget about that was the first time that I had come home and I looked at the clock and it was already like 4:30 in the morning.
Wow.
Now, mind you, I'm all the way up in Long Island.
Wow. Yeah.
That's no traffic. I mean, I'll put it this way. I went to another person's house. That alone, I remember, took an hour. And I'm an hour past this person who I went with.
Yeah, yeah. I'm in North Jersey, so it's Tom's River is like hour and change for me as well.
But like now, I've gone to Tom's River now a couple of times for Titan, and I'm like, okay, not a problem.
Yeah, yeah. You get used to it, you know.
Oh, yeah. I've learned, believe me, doing these road trips like this, I have definitely have learned that. But looking back at that show, the last SWF show, how do you think? What was your match of the night, if you had to pinpoint one? And I know it's 2 nights of action.
You know, that's really tough one. You know, as far as the quality of the matches, it's very hard to say. I mean, we did have a dog collar match. I haven't seen a dog collar match in quite a while. So that was, between I think it was Steve Lugo and Steve Off. So
yeah, they've had quite an interesting rivalry the last couple of months, from what I've been seeing on social media.
Yeah, and dog collar match is one of the oldest gimmick matches there is. Like going back to Roddy Piper and Greg the Hammer Valentine. I don't know if that was the original, but that was one of the matches that kind of popularized the trend of that. And so those are always interesting matches.
Because if I remember correctly, I think one of the matches also, because I remember seeing graphic for it. I was like, wow, was Shane Douglas versus Tommy Dreamer.
How could I forget that, man? Yeah. And I've worked with both wrestlers, but that was, yeah, that was an incredible moment as well. And they both spoke on the mic, and they poured their heart out, and then had a great match. So yeah.
I mean, that's you talk about those two guys. That's one of the pillar feuds that happened in the original ECW days.
Yeah.
But obviously, like I said, next SWF show is Mega Slam, which is April 21st and 22nd, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, yep. And then my birthday is April 23rd, so this is like my pre-gift.
Well, my birthday is the end of this month, actually.
Oh, happy early birthday, man.
Thank you. The big 3-0.
Nice. Oh, I'll be wishing.
I appreciate that, and I believe I'm feeling it now a little bit. But no, but what I was going to say, though, obviously Mega Slam's always a big show. And then I know we also have ISPW coming up.
Yeah, ISPW has so many shows coming up. And, of course, WrestleCon. I hope you're going to be there, because it is going to have a who's who of old school wrestlers. And none other than, Bret the Hitman Hart's going to be there, man. So I am.
Yeah, I think that's happening in May, if I remember correctly.
May 6th in Morristown. I want to say the Men in Sports Arena. But if you go on the ISPW page, it's on there just to be sure. But I think it's the Men in Sports Arena in Morristown, New Jersey. So, yeah, if you're watching, do not miss it. There's going to be just a who's who of, old school, wrestlers, a lot of them from the 80s. So you're not going to want to miss that. Trust me.
Not at all. And that's one thing I always love, is getting a chance to talk to those guys. Because back in the early days of this show, actually, one of the guests we were lucky to have on was actually Larry Zbyszko.
Wow. Legend.
And I said it to him, and I wasn't being mean about it. I said, look, it's an honor to talk to somebody of his level, because there's not that many left.
Yeah. I mean, there's still a few that are around that I got to meet at last year's WrestleCon.
But I'm saying yes, obviously there's still a lot of the guys left. Obviously, we see who Tommy's bringing in for 80s WrestleCon, but like you look at somebody like Larry Zbyszko, for example. How many people can sit there and say that they've spoken to one of the guys who had arguably one of the greatest rivalries with Bruno Sammartino?
Yeah.
And I remember he told us the whole story of him turning heel over at Shea Stadium, and how he basically had to be fearful for his life, because at that point, it's not like now where, and I hate to say it, where kayfabe is not there anymore. Back then, I'm talking, God, you're talking about Zbyszko, that's 70s almost, late 60s even. Back then, they thought wrestling was real.
Suspended disbelief, and for some people, it wasn't even suspended disbelief. It was belief, because like you said, kayfabe was still alive, and even if you knew deep down that it was kayfabe, the fact that it wasn't openly acknowledged helped you believe in it and get emotionally invested in it as if it was real.
I'll put it this way: you go back then, you weren't seeing like, for example, somebody like Piper, for example, or Zbyszko going on social media and praising everybody. That's not, when you were a heel back then, you were a heel. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter if you were in Madison Square Garden, the TD Garden up in Boston. It didn't matter. You were a heel, and people did not like you.
Yeah, and you didn't, like you said, you didn't go on YouTube and praise everybody. You didn't. You wouldn't be caught having lunch at the diner with the guy that you hated and who you're gonna beat with a cane or a chair or whatever it was.
Like he did, like I remember years ago, a couple years ago, when Roman Reigns was taking on, had his feud with Braun Strowman, and I think they were just about to do their international tour that they always do every year. I think it must have been right after Mania was when, because if you remember, like they do Mania, and like usually a few weeks later they'll do like that 2 week tour of like Europe, for example. And there was a picture, I remember this vividly, that came out of them visiting the Colosseum in Rome, and Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns are sitting there like they're buddy buddy. I'm like,
Yeah.
you put that in the 80s or the 70s, you were not seeing that at all. Guys made sure that if they were in the public eye for whatever reason, and you didn't like that other person, oh, you made sure of that.
Yeah, no, and I think I saw it on an episode of Dark Side of the Ring. I forgot who said it. I think it was on the episode of like Dr. D. David Schultz, but they said it was you did everything in your power to keep the secret. Everything in your power. And that's why Dr. D smacked the guy, the reporter, because the reporter was trying to break, crack the code and unveil the secret to everybody. And back then, he stayed in character and went to that extent to stay in character. I'm not saying it was a good thing, but that's how important it was to them.
I mean, I'll go even a step further. Obviously, somebody like me, yes, I don't consider myself part of the industry. I'm still a fan at heart. And yes, have I had moments where I talk to promoters or I talk to Ryan and he's telling me stuff that's about to happen, and I'm like, I don't let it affect me because to me, I'm still a fan at heart. I still want to be shocked when somebody's about to win a title or when there's a return. Even though I might have been told about it previously, I let it go in one ear, out the other ear.
Right.
Because to me, that's who I am. And people always say to me, they go, "Oh, but John, you have the show, aren't you?" I'm like, I'm not part of the industry. I never come off as. To me, I'm just fortunate enough to be a fan who has a platform where I can express my opinions. And people may agree with me, they may not. To me, I know that it's just my opinion, and that's all that it comes down to.
Right. Yeah.
But I know some of the matches on the card because I actually just went over. Actually, I know they had quite a bit of matches on that. I'm actually about to pull up the card right now just to tell people, who they can possibly be seeing that day. Because I know for a fact they're going to have a few sign-ins before the show. We're going to have Nyla Rose is going to be there. Ernest the Cat Miller is going to be there. Okay, I have it up right now, actually. And actually making a rare appearance, and I mean a rare appearance, is Ahmed Johnson.
Yes.
But some of the matches you'll see at this show on Saturday, you'll see Crowbar taking on Alpha Jr., as you mentioned before, Tommy Dreamer taking on the King of Rock, Mr. Rick Recon, with Tommy Dreamer's co-host, Dave LaGreca. Also, you're going to see Dominic De Niro taking on GKM, LSG versus TJ Epic. This is Vicious Vicky will be in action. So, guys, you don't want to miss it. Definitely support ISPW. And I know everybody makes a joke. There's a lot of wrestling companies in the state of New Jersey. Seems like there's as many wrestling companies as there are Starbucks.
Yeah.
It's a bad comparison, but it's the first thing I thought of.
Well, yeah, I hear, New Jersey is the most saturated market out of all, from what I hear. I don't know, but I believe it because there are so many companies. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm glad that it's alive, but I mean, there's just no wrestling. And that said, ISPW stands out in the midst of all of those, many companies, and that's an accomplishment.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that's all attested to Tommy Fierro for what he's done, bringing in the names he's bringing in the talent that he's brought in. But I also look at it this way: people always say that the New Jersey market may come off as being oversaturated, but always right. If you can get yourself over in one of the companies in New Jersey, either ISPW, LTW, SWF, Invictus, BCW, whatever company you think of, I personally think you can get over anywhere. Because to me, New Jersey is the harshest crowd when it comes to the independent scene. And yes, I've been fortunate enough to be in the shows in upstate New York. I've been in shows in Maryland, and it's the total opposite. It's like Jersey, like I said before, if you can make it in Jersey and you can make it with any of those promotions, there's no stopping. But I know you also have there's another event coming up that you actually are going to be a part of on Saturday called Celebrity Boxing.
Yeah, man.
Happening. No, go ahead.
Yeah. No, go on. Yeah. Saturday, March 11th.
Yes, and basically, I have it's going to be down at the Showboat in AC.
Yep.
Tickets are still available, I think, from what I'm looking at.
Yeah, officialcelebrityboxing.com. Officialcelebrityboxing.com.
Yes, and the one match I saw, the one fight that I saw that I sort of not laughed at, because to me, you can't really laugh at any of the boxers. I have the whole card up here right now. The one that I found very interesting was Daltano.
Yeah, Dalton, he makes his rounds everywhere, and his presence is known, and yeah, it's not going to be his first time at a celebrity boxing. He's been there, I think maybe every time that I've announced prior.
And I'm just looking at some of the other matches here. You're also going to have Alex Embler taking on another wrestler from the state of New Jersey, the one, the only Mr. Josh Adams, or as as Violence.
Oh yeah.
Let me see what else you have here. Ryan Dalton is taking on Hafiz. I'm sorry if I mispronounced his first name. Montgomery.
Yeah, real boxer.
Oh, here's another one. Justin Haynes is taking on Frankie Picard from Titan Championship Wrestling. I just want to see who else you got here. Evan Spencer taking on Chris Lamont. Craig Weinberg taking on Bobby Barrett. You have a lot of, and then I'm sorry, this one, the names for this one, I popped big time. You have Lawrence Johnson taking on a guy by the name of Rodney. Is that Peterson? Or yeah, Peterson. Sorry, but his name on the graphic is not Logan Paul.
Yeah, a doppelganger, whatever the word is, of Logan Paul. There's going to be also a Jake Paul lookalike on the show too, and of course his opponent, the Logan Paul opponent, is going to be a Snoop Dogg, like a D-O-double-G.
Yes, I just saw that one. I want to see who. I mean, I give them credit that they're coming up with these names, and it's like, yeah. Oh, I just saw right now. Not Jake Paul. Blake Hall's taking on Mike Mazza, Mazza. I get
Yeah,
it.
someone else from the wrestling industry, from the Jersey wrestling scene. He was back in the day.
But yeah, this is like, I mean, yes, it's boxing, so it's much different than pro wrestling. But folks, if you get the opportunity, you have nothing to do on a Saturday, definitely make the trip down there. It's definitely worth it. Just to, honestly, even if you're not a boxing fan, just to see combat sports in action. I think it's the best way to put it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It is. And we have a nice party afterwards all the time. An after show. We have a press conference the night before on Friday in Atlantic City at the Showboat. I'm going to be conducting that. Celebrity boxing there's nothing like celebrity boxing. Speaking of celebrity boxing, I just want to plug that I am going to be ring announcing, for those of you that know anything about boxing, the great Roy Jones Jr., one of the greatest boxers in history, maybe the most physically gifted boxer that's ever been in the sport of boxing, multi-division world champion. I'm going to take on a YouTuber named NDO Champ, who is this jacked bodybuilder. I did the press conference in Chicago, and it's going to be in the metaverse, uh, which is like, I guess, like virtual reality, but it's going to be in the metaverse, but it's going to be an actual fight with the background being the metaverse, and it's the first time this has ever been done. First fight in the metaverse in history. It's going to be on pay-per-view. It's going to be on May 13th, and I get to be a part of that. I am so excited, and that's also celebrity boxing.
That to me, when I heard and I saw that it was that you were doing that, and that to me was again. You look at it from the pro wrestling side. You just got to ring announce for Tommy Dreamer. In May, you're going to be, I guess it's still, you're going to be ring announcing for Roy Jones Jr., one of the icons. When you look at when boxing was at its biggest, I mean, I'm talking like the days when you had Tyson, George Foreman, go down the list.
Yeah.
So that to me is incredible that you're getting that out there. And that's going to be is that going to be in AC, or that's going to be in Chicago as well?
No, that's going to be, it's going to be aired. It's in the metaverse. Let's, it won't be like an arena. It's in the metaverse, man. And, but I did the press conference in Chicago, and I got to meet Roy Jones and NDO Champ. The guy, his gimmick, on YouTube, he smacks food out of people's hands. He smacks unhealthy food out of people's hands.
Oh.
The guy is a monster. And if you look at the press conference, when he came to the press conference, he greeted me with this big hug. I thought he broke me, man. It was, I mean, I felt it.
Yeah. Don't worry, guys. You're not going to see me in the boxing ring anytime soon. Trust me.
Either, except announcing, but you're not going to see me in gloves.
No. It depends on if it's a particular person, but I'll tell you about that off air.
Okay.
But no, it seems like you have a lot coming up, and you know damn well that I'm proud of what you've been doing. And you know that you always have an open invite when it comes to the show. Anything you want to promote, all you got to do is hit me up, and we can get something going. But before I let you go, where can people find you on social media? And do you have anything else other than what we've already talked about that you want to plug? The floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of stuff. You can find me. My Instagram is at RichReed7, at RichReed7. My TikTok is at the one Rich Reed. And then there's my Facebook page. I have a public page that I'm still, I think I've said this the last time I was here. I'm still working on that public page, but I also have my regular Facebook page, Rich Reed. So those are pretty much the places you can find me. So I'm doing celebrity boxing, of course, SWF Mega Slam, which I'm excited about, on the 21st, 22nd. The second night is going to be in the Metuchen Sportsplex, which is the first venue I ever walked into when I got into this business. So the fact that it's Mega Slam, like the WrestleMania of SWF, and it's where I first stepped foot, it's going to be a really emotional night for me. But of course, ISPW. Check out WrestleCon May 6th. Bret the Hitman Hart's going to be there, along with many other people. Papa Shango is going to be there. Demolition's going to be there. It's going to be amazing. And then, of course, LTW on April 29th. You know, that's my family too. Pro Wrestling R, Gloucester City on March 19th. And then, ISPW, I won't be able to make it this Saturday, but the next show will be the 24th. And I have so much else going on. I can't even keep track right now, but it's an amazing feeling. And then, of course, June 3rd, Chad Minnis, he has Shore Star Wrestling. That's his new baby. And I'm the first ring announcer for that company ever. And he's going really strong. We have amazing shows there in Rio Grande, New Jersey. So
I've seen some of the stuff in it. You guys do well, and I don't think anybody's ever complained about being busy.
Yeah, I could go on for another hour.
But Rich, again, thank you so much for hopping on. I appreciate it a lot. And again, like I said before, the door's always open for you to hop on whenever you would like. Even if you don't want to promote anything, you just want to hang out, you're more than welcome.
Brother, thank you so much. I'll always love being on here, and you're one of my biggest supporters, and I'll always be thankful for that, man. It's a really good time to be in the industry in New Jersey. Like you said, it's saturated. Some people say it's too much, but I think it's a lot of fun because there's never a dull moment, and you never run out of things to get involved with. So
I totally agree with that. But for the Hall of Famer himself, the ring announcer himself, Rich Reed, I'm John. This has been another YouTube exclusive, as it says right down there below us, for the Round Podcast, which is actually right above us. And we'll catch you guys on the next one.